Welcome to Happy Talks with Dr. Alice and Donovan. Dr. Alice Fong is a holistic naturopathic doctor and founder of Amor de Soi Wellness, and Donovan Jensen is a software engineer and founder of HowToHappy.com. Together, they're out to cause more happiness in the world.
Hi everyone, welcome to Happy Talks. Today I am super excited to introduce one of my favorite people and friends, Jimmie Allen, who is a love and relationship coach. He had the privilege of studying with Catherine Woodard Thomas, who is the author of New York Times bestselling Calling in the One. When he discovered her coaching program, he knew instantaneously that this was what he was meant to do. And as a love and relationship coach, his purpose and mission is to disrupt people's patterns in love so they can get out of the way, so they can have a juicy love life. Please welcome Jimmie. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thanks, Alice and Donovan, for having me. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Awesome. So what have you been up to lately since the lockdown and pandemic?
I've been up to a lot, first of all, to be straight honest with you, I did have a panic attack when this whole thing was going down. And I ended up, I thought I was actually having a heart attack, and I ended up walking to the hospital and near my house, and then walking into the emergency room was kind of like scary because it was like, for the first time I've been in this hospital before, and it was like hot and people wearing masks, and the guy in front of me was like, he looked really sick. And the nurse is like, don't touch anything, and like just like yelling at him. And so it was like, that kind of like rammed up my anxiety even more. And so the woman was like, I don't think there's nothing wrong with you. You just need to like breathe, or we can send you to like a therapist. He can give you some medication. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to go outside and like take some deep breaths and recollect myself. And I just walked home and I was fine. But luckily for me, like I was in, I'm still in one. I have two coaches, and I was in two coaching programs. That was, one was an entrepreneur program with Marie Folio of B School, which was like really great. So it was like a sort of an 8-week lifelong program with her live, interacting with her and like really taking your business to the next level. Cause I really didn't have that business sense and entrepreneur things and how to define content and clients and like all these little behind the scenes things that people don't tell you what you need to do in order to create a business. So it was like really great that I jumped into that, because it was just a lot of work and defining and redefining and defining my mission, and end up like revamping my whole website, my whole everything that I was doing, just like redid it during the pandemic. And then my other coach in that community, because I had only my Calling One package, but it was like only one program, which is 9 weeks. So then through that program, I expanded it. So I have like, a 3-month, 6-month package to a year package. And I developed my own package. And then I have these two other ideas that I'm like finishing up right now. So I'm just like, that has been a really great tool, a community and a coach to like really help me to define things and like add on more to, so I can coach from that place, and really learning how to be an entrepreneur. Coaching is very creative. So like that creative side versus my entrepreneur side. So really, and then being around a community that's like people are just doing great things. And that was a real surprise, how supportive and how you see how these people during this particular time are really growing their business, are getting clients, are changing things, are making a difference. Like they're not just sitting home and allowing, quarantine to be some kind of like punishment. They're actually taking this moment to make a difference with people in their life, people around them, how to pivot your business so you can continue to make money and make a difference. So it's just like really inspiring to be around that community in order for me to keep doing what I'm doing.
That's incredible. Inspiring for you to just really be expanding and challenging yourself and really making a difference for so many people by expanding your business.
Yeah.
This pandemic I have had the same experience where it's kind of kicked my butt into gear, and like, I have more time to focus on my business because I'm home all day. So,
right.
But it's now or never. Yes.
Right. And it was like, I think one of the learning lessons too for me is like, okay, now I have this time. I can't sit around and complain anymore about not doing yoga, not meditating, not working on my website, not doing this. It's like, no, this is the time to do that. Because when this is all over and all the regular stuff starts to go back into schedule in place, like,
Yeah.
then I don't want to be complaining like, well, I had 4 or 5, whatever months to do something. Like I can't make that excuse anymore.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say that mirrors on to exactly like what I think has been the experience for a lot of people, which is like an initial emotional, like difficult, at least for me, like that first month was rough. I didn't know really what I was going to do, and I didn't get a whole lot done. But then as the months like have continued on, it's been a great space for kind of unraveling, like what's important, what's changed, what can I pull out, like what's gone that I didn't want in the first place, but that I was doing all the time anyway. And also what can I kind of make some space for? These important things that I've said forever, like they're important, and then I never did them. I actually have the space to do them, and I've found that this has been an awesome time. So just a mirroring of what you said.
Yeah, and then like to piggyback on something you said too, I did like side jobs, as I'm building coaching and stuff like that, and I never realized that how being in another job that I really am not passionate about and being around those people really affected my mind, like how much I was just trying to just block them out, but really it had an effect on me. And then once I stopped hanging around those people, and I'm like sort of an accountability group with like it's 5 of us of coaches, and just to see and hear their vulnerability, the accountability, the things that they're doing, I was like, oh, like if I'm constantly around, and plus the 2 coaching programs that I'm in, it was like my mind is focused on what it is I really want to focus on. And I don't have these outside environments that are affecting my mental space, because all I have around me is people who are doing it. And so if you see people who are doing it, then makes me like, for me, I want to do it. It makes it seem possible during this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's so important to curate just the sources of information or influences that are around you. Like I know that I have also experienced the same thing where just depending on the social context, like if you're trying to do something like build a business or write a book or, whatever creative pursuit you're trying to take on, who's around you makes such a big difference, because you can have a group of people around you that's like, oh yeah, okay, sure. Like you're never going to finish a book, whatever. Like, you can have those kind of people, or you can have the kind of people that are like, yeah, I also just wrote a chapter. It was extremely long.
Right.
Like that was rough. And this is what I'm going to tackle next week. And just having the right people around you makes such a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would be curious how you were able to kind of like source some people to create a community. I mean, it sounds like you joined some coaching programs, but how did you find some other like-minded people for your other group?
Well, it started off with one of my friends. So what happened was I had just sort of broken off with this other guy who was my accountability partner, but I knew this is like, I guess for me because as a coach, like I'm highly sensitive. So even going in with him, I should have said no, because I knew going in that this wasn't going to work. And we ended up like breaking up. He got a big job and I was on my own. But then for some reason, this girl, she kept being on my mind. I was just like, and I know what I've been learning is I trust the universe that those messages for me, that this person keeps coming up for me, I need to reach out to this person. So I randomly reached out to her like, hey, we should create some content together. Because we already did a podcast together. And she's like, yeah, come to my office, And so I went to her workspace office in downtown New York, whatever area, I can't think of it right now. So we're just talking. Now we really talked for a long time. And so we started like coming up with ideas of like shows, just like random, we just started creating stuff just like randomly. So we started to stay in contact more and creating more and more content and more just like, hey, have you seen this show? Hey, have you did this? And so we just started like creating more and more and more. So first it was me and her. So then she said, hey, you know, our friend Nando, who we both know, is looking for someone to help him curate some of his Instagram stuff and form a group. That's how initially the three of us became a little pod. So that was fun. And then all of a sudden he said, hey, I know these two other guys who I met up on Instagram who are looking to, I've met, curate a group. So let's like meet once a week. So we've been meeting for like 2 months now. And it just sort of like formed that way. And it just like ended up closing. I'm not sure if it's closed, but it just been us four guys and a girl, which is, it just sort of happened to be that way. And it's just been great, you know, and to see how ambitious they are and the willingness to be vulnerable about like, they're not booking clients and looking to what I need to do and change. Like having the conversations with each other. Like I had a conversation with a guy today. He's like, you know, my clients keep leaving me in the middle of like a 3-month package. And so he was like very vulnerable with that. And so, you know, and all of us gave feedback and suggestions what he should do. So now he's like, and I had a one-on-one with him today because he was asking me like, oh, what are you doing? Like, what did you change? Because all of a sudden, all the changes I've been making, now I'm starting to get inquiries of things. And so, you know, I told him like, you know, one of the things that I've really changed is I start to tap into being just raw and vulnerable online. And I just started to see a huge difference because I started, as I was doing the work in the entrepreneurs program, one of the things they had you look at is who are the people that you admire and follow. And so it was like Oprah and Maria Folio and Gary Vee and Tony Robbins. And I was like, well, what do they all have in common? They have this real willingness to be like open and vulnerable and unapologetic and just authentic. And I was like, maybe I should start like, you know, tapping into that online. And all of a sudden I would do it here and there. And then all of a sudden I just started to see a difference in inquiries and like, I just started to see a difference in myself and like really taking it on in my life with the people that I love and care about and spaces and in the coaching programs that I was in. I was just raising my hand, just sharing like what I'm dealing with. I just started to see a difference of how started to change how I approach business and how the people who are starting to come to me are looking to be, especially men, are looking, I think I have a vulnerability problem. I think you can help me.
That's a really good segue into your business, because this is where the juicy part is. Dating relationships, and you know, what are your tips, especially, you know, I think that vulnerability piece, especially for men, is a struggle. What would be your advice to men on how to tap into that?
Well, first of all, I said all men, like you have to have the willingness to look. A lot of men don't want to look. Like I had a guy had a total reaction to having himself reflect and telling him what I do. It's like, oh, I can't look at myself. I don't want to look at like what I've done. I just would rather not know, you know. And before I even take on a client, one of the things that we're taught is like, you can't just take on anyone. They have to have the willingness to look, the willingness to do the work, and the willingness to have the ability to self-reflect on how and take responsibility of how they showed up in the relationship. If they can't do that, I can't really help them, because I can't see how I've been wrong in this relationship. Then they're being a victim. The other person is wrong. Like that we can't really, you know, go on, because I used to be that way. You know, before I started doing transformational work, I didn't want to look, especially in my relationship with my mother, because I would just because I wanted to be right about our relationship. She was, you know, mean, and she was, you know, this. I wanted to hold on to my beliefs about her. I did not want to look at how I might have been a cause in that relationship. I just didn't want to. And I was angry at my friend who was like, that is what you're gonna have to do when you start doing work on yourself. I was like, no, And a lot of men are like that. And there's also like beliefs, like one of the biggest beliefs that men have is like, vulnerability is weak. Like we should not be talking about our problems. We should tough it up, hang it up, tough it out. Don't tell anyone, what you're dealing with. But what's going on in a lot of studies is like a lot, especially like if I can look at not only myself but the men in my family, like they struggled mentally and physically developing diseases of never talking about anything. And that's the whole thing around Movember, which is mental health for men and mental health awareness. And like in one of the podcasts, there's a man, he's a firefighter, and he was saying how he almost committed suicide 3 times. And he was saying that, and this is like an example of like some of the studies I've been like reading on and studying on. And he was saying like, I just felt like I just couldn't tell my brothers in the fire department, because if I do, they would probably derank me. They probably would not see me as this strong man. So I have to put on this face, this shield of armor, and not let anyone in, and hold on to I am strong. Because the minute they know that I have cancer, then I am weak. They're going to put me at a desk job, and then they're not going to see me as this strong, powerful man, because I have this thing. And because I have this thing and I can't talk about it, right, I'm mentally messing with myself. And now he tried to take himself out 3 times. And on the 3rd try, his doctor was like, maybe you need to see a psychiatrist. And that's a whole other thing of like wanting to get help. He finally gave in on the 3rd attempt to commit suicide. And he was like, because he was able to talk about it, that he was able to start the process of not only his mental health issue, but he actually started to see his cancer start to shrink, because he wasn't holding on to, I can't remember what was ailing him, but he wasn't embarrassed anymore, because he's also put himself in groups of men who are also dealing with the same thing, and they can all talk about it. You know what I mean? So a lot of men struggle with trying to keep that mask on, hold on to, I am strong, I am tough, nothing can penetrate through me.
Yeah, I believe it. And I see, with the patients I work with, holding in, for men or women, holding on to such emotional turmoil when you're distressed is unhealthy. You have to release it. It just doesn't on its own. You have to go through the pain, discomfort, and the vulnerability to get to the other side of growth and just self-discovery.
And it's in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, it was uncomfortable as hell. I mean, just to have a conversation with a past relationship, one of the things I mentioned to you, talk about having a completion conversation with past relationship, that I remember being so terrified of like calling or wanting to reach out to my ex-boyfriend and owning up to some shit, even though I broke up with him, but to like really see my part in the dynamic, it was just rough. And because I did not want to call, I did not want to even hear. But then I realized, God, like, because the fact that I did not want to take the action to do those things, I was still angry. And that anger was still in me. And it was stopping me from, because I would quickly cut guys off if they had any remote nuances of my last relationship, because I was unhealed. I was not unwilling to deal with those things. I didn't even know that until I just started doing the work, and I started recognizing the pattern. Like, oh, like I'm punishing other people for what somebody else did to me. And I was just like, oh, no. Like, I'm not doing that anymore, because that is hindering my ability to allow anyone in to give and receive love. And so, after I had that conversation with him, it was like a relief. Like, it was just, and I remember the moment something shifted in me, and like how I started to attract people. Like, it was just like, I don't know, I can't explain it, but something shifted. Because I was also doing the calling and the one work at the same time. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to go further. I'm going to contact every single person I dated, every single person I was in a relationship with. I'm going to clean my shit up. Then people were like, you did that? I was like, I sure did. I contacted every single person because I didn't want anything blocking me from having, to love fully, to give fully. And some of them was difficult conversations, but I learned so much about myself, and it gave me an opportunity to work on those things with the people in my life, and not waiting for love, but working on those things with my friends, my family, coworkers right now, instead of waiting on love to just show up.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there that kind of mirrors experience that like I've had to push through as well, in terms of especially the piece of really getting ownership, right, on my own actions, and not wanting to do that for a long time. And I think we talked a good bit about like how difficult that can be, but also when you get to the other side of it, it's so nice, or at least for me, it's been so nice because you feel like you have so much more control. Like I feel like I have so much, like before when I was in my old mindset, stuff just happened to me. And then I would get mad or sad or whatever. Like stuff happened to me and then I would feel it and I'd be like, I don't know what to do. It's not my fault that she's being a rude. It's not my fault that she didn't love me. Like I did everything I could. And then when I started taking responsibility for stuff, like the work is hard. The work is not easy. And it's really tough to go back and look through like, man, I did all these things. Like,
I know.
I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done this thing and I shouldn't have done this thing. But I feel like, the other end of it is you just have so much more control and insight, right? Like you can see like, okay, I did this in the past. It caused this outcome. Like that's on me. So in the future, I don't have to do that. Whereas when I was in like I was saying, in the old mindset, it was just like, I do whatever I do. People do whatever they do. Stuff happens. A lot of times it's not good.
I'm glad you said that too, because it's like, I'm a big fan of Gabriella Bernstein too. And I think it was in her work, she was saying how when you can like look at your reaction, your own reaction to what somebody's saying, and not blaming somebody else, but be responsible for your reaction to somebody saying, why am I reacting that way? What part of me is unhealed? Am I like really doing that work? And being able to get to a place where you're not reacting so much to what people are saying. I'm telling you, people don't know what to do with you. I remember my best friend used to like get on my nerves of some things, and he said something to me one day, and I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, so we're gonna do this. He was like, you're not gonna get mad? Like what? Like, I was like,
Really?
I was like, listen, I'm already over it. Like you said what you said. I said, okay. And I moved on. I'm not going to sit here and argue about something that's not really affecting me. So and I'm not going to engage. Like I'm ready to move on. Are you ready to move on? He just kind of like, whoa, you know what I mean? And even now with my last relationship, like the guy he was like, you don't react to a lot of things. I was like, what's there to react to? Like, I don't need to like nitpick, and like, I don't like, one of the things he said to me, he was like, you don't argue about anything. I was like, well, what do you want to argue about? Like, I'm just like, we have a good flow. He's like, but people argue. I said, I get that people argue, but I don't need to look for something, because I realized that's what I would do. I would look for something. And that's what he was doing with me. He was waiting for the shoe to fall off the other foot. And that's what a lot of people do because of their past relationship with other people, that they are not, or haven't forgiven themselves and made amends with themselves, and they haven't forgiven the other person in their relationship. When I was doing that, I was always looking for the shoe to drop. Like, okay, too good to be true, to this and that. Like, what's like, I just like, you're waiting, and when you're waiting, you're not 100% being there with the person. You're not fully engaging with the person. You're kind of half in and half out, because you don't know, you don't trust. And a lot of people do that because they don't want to get hurt again. But I'm sorry, like, that's a part of love. Like, one of my best friends used to say, well, I don't want to get hurt again. Well, it's like, well, don't be in a relationship. Like, that's a part of love. A love, you grow through struggle, you grow through pain. And if you do the work on yourself, you grow together. Like, you don't have to punish somebody else for what that person said or what your past. And if you do the work, then you're being responsible, like you said, Donovan, for your own healing, and you're bringing that to the relationships so you could be full and engage and give your fullest and best self if you're willing to take the responsibility and look at your own. Each person is willing to look at, okay, I'm making you react this way. What is it am I saying that is triggering you? Oh, okay. Right. Like, I'm listening and see it's making you feel X, Y, and Z. Okay, like, engaging in the conversation instead of taking it personally, because something's there. Something's there to be discussed. Something's there to be learned. This moment has presented itself for both of us to learn and grow and investigate within our own selves and be responsible of how we're going to show up now in this relationship.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Does that kind of, you had mentioned that you've studied with Catherine, and does that kind of mirror and reflect the one coaching, or calling in the one coaching? What is that exactly?
So calling is one is really helping you get basically what I just said too, helping you look at your assumptions, your choices, your beliefs, and seeing how that been stopping you in your life. So calling the one is basically, in the book, it's a 7-week program so you to attract love. But however, it's making you really dig within your family, your relationships, your beliefs, your assumptions, and like have you take a microscopic look at those things, how that's been stopping you. And then it makes you flip it and gives you work to do of like, okay, now how am I going to show up? What are my new intentions? How do I want to create? How do I define love now? And so, a part of it is like giving you a clear opportunity to look at any and every circumstances that come up in your life, from the smallest thing that are teaching you something about your ability to love. So you start to really engage in all these different aspects of relationships all over your life, and how you probably have been living in a story of your life, or in a belief or unconscious belief about something that happened when you were a child, with your religious, like that has a part of a play in it. If you had love or something, been abandoned by a parent or something, that has a huge part of it, a dynamic in your ability to love. It's like it just goes through a whole bunch of like exercises to help you clear these things out from an ontological point of view, and sort of a psychological point of view too, but it's kind of a mixture of things. And so, yes, as you answer your question, like a lot of it is a lot of self-responsibility.
Yeah.
And how are you now aware? What is the new belief, and what is the action you're going to do?
Right.
It's always action. Awareness, look, this is the problem. Awareness, new belief, what are they actually going to do? It's always action, 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 action.
Right. That's the only way to transform. And
right.
You have to give up the being a victim of your circumstances to have that actually do the work and look. And it doesn't sound easy.
It's one of the very few books though, like, because a lot of relationship books are very insightful kind of things. They don't challenge you to do the work, but this, I can tell you some of the things I was just like so uncomfortable. I can tell you, I remember there's a part about the parents, and they ask you a series of questions to look at your father and your mother. Like, I didn't grow up with my father, so I didn't do the work, so I just skipped it. And so I just like did the work about my mother, and and finished the book, blah blah blah. And then somehow it's like I had this instinct to like read the book again. And so as I got to the work and I got to that part again, and I was just like, well, let me just like, even though he's not physically here, I have an assumption and a belief about him and me. And so I was like, oh, he abandoned me, and I date people who abandon me. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh my God, I need to like work on and recognize I am perpetuating this abandonment relationship.
wow.
And I was like, oh. So
Yeah.
it set me down that journey to really forgiveness because I realized that I was just like, well, F him. Like you know, he left. So he was never there. But I never actually mentally and wholeheartedly forgave him
Mm,
and forgave myself for punishing myself, or not punishing myself, but like being so angry, being so
mm,
resentful, and letting go in that resentment. That
wow.
it had an effect on, and like sometimes I would be jealous of seeing guys who, or people who had relationship with their fathers. You know,
Mm,
it affected me, especially like when when people who I date, their parents always like me and their fathers always like me. And I'm just like, well, why can't I have a father? Like, you know, all this resentful conversations that we're having.
mm,
And when I finally dealt with that, I didn't have those resentful conversations anymore. I was able to be fully present
mm,
with people and their parents and like be engaging with them and like, you know, love these people's parents for who they are and who they're not, and not take it personally. Like, I wish I would have had this. I should have had that. Like those shoulda, coulda, wouldas, like
mhm,
hinders us too. You know what I mean? So I stopped doing that when I started to really look at that dynamic, that evasive relationship that I didn't realize that was like pulling on me, and unconsciously that I was doing it. So a lot of calling the one work brings the unconscious conscious, so you can deal with it, because a lot of like confirmation bias is something that people, these beliefs that we have, and that we look for things that are confirming these ideas about love, about men. Oh, my father did this to me, and now look, look at that person. They
mhm,
did this to me too. So it really helps us look the work, doing the work, help us look at one, the belief, and how we're keeping it alive.
mm,
And that was like a big thing for me. Like, how am I keeping this belief alive? What are the actions? What am I saying? What am I not doing that confirms that, you know, love is hurt, love is hurtful, love is bad, I'm not good enough, which is one of the big things that I worked on. Like, I'm not good enough. See, look, another person left. I'm not good enough. You know, my dad wasn't even here. You know, like, why try? And then we just give up because we this belief of I'm not good enough.
mm. Yeah, I see that a lot in dating culture these days. I'm curious though, it sounds like there's so much reward when you're willing to do the deep work, the self reflection. But I feel like in this generation and era, it's just like there's so apps and it's just so convenient and easy to date. And so it's like, this person doesn't fit my criteria, just like swipe to the next person. And it's like, what is your suggestion or recommendation for, people who are not willing to do the work or don't even realize that there's work to be done because they think life is okie dokie?
That's a good question. You know, I just like, listen, I say, hey, if you're not willing to do the work, you cannot be surprised of what you always call in and show up with. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
don't do the work, no results.
No result.
No results. You're going to always call in the thing that, you know, you're unwilling to deal with.
Mm.
Life is always presenting to you an opportunity to deal with something that that's what basically, like, if you go and return to love, she's saying that every relationship is, and Gary Zukov talks about this too in the I think it's the power of intention, it's the seed of the soul. Um, every relationship that comes into your life is on purpose.
Mm.
And when he said that, I was just like, because every relationship, no matter, if you ask yourself the question, what is this here to teach me? Even at the smallest moment,
Wow.
you will see a lesson, that there is something in that moment, in that relationship, with no matter who you're with, it is teaching you something about yourself and your ability, or confirming something about you. And
Mm.
when I remember when he said that, I was like, And I started to see it clearly. And I started to use that a lot for myself and with my clients. And they also started to see that too. And they're going to be working with a new guy starting tomorrow. And, you know, I said that to him. I was like, what is this opportunity? Because I pointed something out to him about his relationship with his daughter, because his daughter was 7 years old. She thinks she's really fat and she needs to lose weight. And I said, and he kind of like brushed it off in a conversation with her. And I was trying to teach him how to have a different kind of conversation with her to get what she's really saying. I said, for me, what it sounds like, she has shame about herself. And he was like, oh my God, I did that. And he brought up a story. What he told her a year ago was making fun of his wife's parents, called them fat and pudgy. And so she started calling herself a year later fat and pudgy. I said, you know, I think that is a good indicator, but I think there's something else maybe going on in school, something happened in the home. Now that you're separated, it's a good time for you to really find out what's underneath that. So doing that work helps him get into the inquiry. Doing the work helps you, really teaches you how to listen. So like every moment is an opportunity for you to learn. So, you know, I think, you know, like we said before, like doing the work is not going to be easy. Sometimes it gets better, but sometimes, especially with the people you love the most, it's hard. It's just, I don't know, it's just uncomfortable. And I think people aren't used to being uncomfortable. And I've been hearing this over and over again. You just have to learn how to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because in a relationship, you're going to have sometimes uncomfortable conversations in order to grow and expand into love. Like that's how you grow and expand. You know, Black Lives Matter. You have to be willing to have uncomfortable conversations to grow and expand and grow. You know, the coronavirus is the exact same thing. Like it's all a part of growing and expanding and in love. And it's just not there to diminish us. It's there to grow and expand us. But a lot of us, if you don't do the work, you don't know that it's there to grow and expand you. We stay stuck in shame. We stay in victimization. And sometimes for people, I've been there, it's comfortable there. You know, it's comfortable to like,
Here.
no, that's you. No, it's you. It's you. You're so difficult. You're this, you're that. You know, it's easy. It's easy. I'm not going to lie. It is easy. You know, well, when I look at my own shame that I have caused in a relationship, it's it's not cute, you know.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of those relationships where, and this actually applies to a lot of things, but also to relationships where there's like a situation or the status quo is uncomfortable and it's not great. And you have to go through, you know, some like higher point of pain to get to a much better place.
Yeah.
And like, it's really tough to sometimes convince people to, you know, like push up into that place, into that higher pain point. But the results are always so much better. Like, you know, another parallel is like staying in a job that you hate for forever, right? Like maybe you don't hate it enough to quit, but if you don't like it, then, you know, you just stay at this, like, I don't know, 2 out of 10 life satisfaction. The same thing with relationship, but like building the strength or just like, I don't know, pushing forward through that, knowing and just accepting that it's going to be a little bit difficult for a while, but easier in the long run, I think helps. Because there were times where I would be like, well, I don't want to have this conversation because why? What's the point? Until I actually started doing some of the work and seeing some of the, you know, like increase in well-being, some of the ease in which the relationships like started to flow a little bit better. And like you were saying, the more work that I've done, the easier it's gotten. Doesn't mean it's easy. Like I still have to go in expecting sometimes like, man, probably someone's going to cry at the end of this conversation, or like, you know, like something's going to happen. It's going to be intense, but with more experience and also just seeing the results, just knowing that like, okay, push through this hard part and then you get to the better part has made a big difference for me actually like moving forward on some of that stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of, you know, psychologists say that, you know, couples that survive are willing to have the difficult conversations, and they have good argument. There's good fighting. You know what I mean? So you have to, I think people just don't know how to have good fighting, and they don't set boundaries. A lot of people a lot of couples poo-poo on boundaries, but just so good in it. Like, for instance, like, if we're going to argue, we're going to call each other's names, we're not going to yell at each other, if we're not going to raise our voices with each other, that's our boundary, and we need to honor that. And if we don't honor that, then I'm going to walk away until you cool down, because this is our agreement with each other, so we can have an intelligent conversation. Like, we don't have, like, a lot of couples don't have that boundary set in place. Like, you're not going to yell at me, you're going to honor this need, and then what is the consequences if you do that? Like, that is healthy, dynamic in a relationship. Like, those need to be established, and a lot of people just don't have them. And Will Smith and Jada Pinkett said, that's one of the things Will was like, you're not going to yell at me, because I watched my dad beat my mother almost every weekend, from yelling and screaming and drinking. We're not going to do that. We're not going to call each other's names. We're not going to put each other down. That's not happening in this relationship. And if it does, the consequence is I'm leaving. That's it. I'm not going to repeat my past. I'm not going to repeat or be another mother and father that I did not want to see be and abuse each other. That's not going to happen here.
Yeah.
So it's like it's healthy, even with friends. It's it could be difficult, and the disappointment on their face could be kind of like gut wrenching. But it's like, you have to know that saying no to something that makes you feel uncomfortable is saying yes to you and your happiness. And it may take a while for the relationship to get back to one or normal, but at the end of the day, you're looking out for your happiness and the well-being of the relationship. And sometimes, you might fall your distance, but then, you can come back, or you may not. And it's a part of it's a part of being in a relationship. Sometimes we're holding on so tight and so attached that, we don't want to, and I get it, don't want to go back out there, don't want to do the work again, don't want to deal with heartbreak. God knows how long it's going to take, how long I'm going to cry, all the stuff that comes with, breaking up or divorce. Like, you just don't want to do it. However, it's like, well, what's the sacrifice? Like,
Sure.
My mental health, my ability, if you have kids, like, it's like, what are we really sacrificing here? Our kids' happiness and our own happiness, just to be together.
Yeah, that raises the question of, is it worth it to sacrifice your own happiness of yourself and your family to really to look?
I had a client, like, his girlfriend, he was so angry that he had to call her when he left the house. He had to call her because we used to barter. He had to call her when he got to my house. When we did yoga, he had to call her when he left. Like, he couldn't go nowhere without calling and saying where he had to go. And he's like, we fight every day, and we have a daughter. And I was just like, and I kept reiterating. I said, well, what kind of man do you want your daughter to marry? You are modeling that for her right now. What do you want her to see? He ended up breaking up with her eventually, because I knew when his intentions, I knew what he really wanted. Like, he wanted to be in a polyamorous relationship, and she didn't want that. And that's in his heart, that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, if you want that, then okay. Like, I'm not judging you. I'm just here to hold space for you to, like, what are you doing to have that to show up? Like, and he actually found somebody who was so much happier, and then he got pulled back into the relationship. And I was just like, I mean, well, you have a choice,
Right. Yes, we always have a choice. Shifting gears a little, one of those questions I've been kind of dying to ask you is, the pandemic and the lockdown has obviously affected a lot of people. I haven't been in the dating scene in a few years, been in a relationship for a couple years now. So I'm like, what is it like? Have you been hearing from people, like, trying to date when there's a lockdown? Does it actually help expand connection because maybe they're not physically seeing each other, hooking up, that they actually have to like converse and connect on a deeper level? What have you been seeing, or what have you been hearing, I guess?
Well, there's a lot of the dating like companies like I think OkCupid is doing this, but Hinge, Facebook dating, Facebook dating, and a lot of other companies, they're doing virtual dates. So basically, like in Hinge, like if you start to connect with somebody, you can like, it quickly goes, you want to have a video chat right now. And so other companies like Filter Off, they're doing these virtual dates. So you sign up for a date and you literally get a 2-minute date.
I love it.
So in that, like, you don't exchange numbers. You have, you get to read their profile for a minute.
Yeah.
And you get to see the pictures and stuff like that. And you have a 2-minute date. You know what I mean? So it's hit or miss. But I knew somebody who, he was his hairstylist and he was getting a haircut. And the guy was like, hey, I would love to get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually 2 weeks later, they went on a date. I don't know, they made it work. And so he's dating, you know what I mean? So people are making it work. You know what I mean? I think the good thing, that I find is that it teaches people to slow down. Well, hopefully it teaches people to slow down. I don't think a lot of people, they're still trying to find a way to hook up, and like I think it's a great opportunity to really get to know people on a deeper level. And that I just find that, people leave with their crotches instead of with their hearts and heads. They're not really, it's true. Like, they want to so quickly get to the goods, and instead of like really developing intimacy, because I think the art of intimacy and being curious has been so lost that people are so quick to want to get to it so fast. They're impatient, not even taking the time to really be curious, like be engaged, ask questions. What is that like? Where are you from? Like, what is it like, growing up, in Idaho or whatever you're from, just really getting and be curiously engaged in the other person. Because I find that when you're honestly curious and curiously engaged with the other person, it really builds this sexual tension. Because I remember experimenting one time with myself. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna rush into things because this person was also lived in the Hamptons, and like I wasn't traveling to the Hamptons every weekend, so we kind of had no choice but to talk every day. And so it's very smart, and like I got to know, he was like the intellect, the way he articulated, like I found that was very sexy, like just the flow and the laughter, and like we just got to know each other in such a way that when we met each other, it was just like, we were kind of on each other, So I think that it's the opportunity. Hopefully people aren't missing this opportunity because it's bringing back this old school way of getting to know each other. Because if you look at the people who are in that time, they're still married. Right. So there's something to be said about this, long-term, this sort of like process of getting to know someone. It helps build connection and trust and letting your guard down and vulnerability, authenticity. Those things are often because I before this whole pandemic, it used to bother me. I see couples on their phone, one watching a game, one watching YouTube. And it's like, of course that's me being a little judgmental. I don't know if, like what these people have done with their day, but it's like you're on a date. I remember I dated a guy, he was so upset that I told him to get off of Instagram. I was just like, I haven't seen you in 2 months. Like, you're going to sit here and be on Instagram? I'm like, are you kidding me? We don't need to be on a date. If you're going to be on Instagram, I want to be here with you. I want to know what you've been up to. I haven't seen you in 2 months. So, I think it's just an opportunity, a real opportunity, even for families and friends to like share what's really going on with you. Because people's stuff is on the surface right now. and it's an opportunity to talk, to get it out in the open, not be embarrassed about it. And talking is healing, like we said back to the beginning. Like this man who had cancer just wanted somebody to talk to and felt like he had no place or anyone to talk, to say, this is what I'm dealing with, and I just need just to tell you. That's all.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Jimmie, we really, really appreciate having you on our show. And I see that you have a free workshop, 7 ways to improve your dating profile, as well as an introduction to a coaching course on dating. Do you want to speak a little about those for our viewers?
Sure. So, I created this, I saw a lot of people really struggling with like dating profiles. It was like the biggest thing, even with my accountability partner. She's a stylist for men's coach, and she's just like, all the women is like, you have to help men with the dating profiles. And even as I look at it, huh?
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, yes.
So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna create this free course so people can really like just upgrade, like a little taste of like coaching, because I found that I sort of like developed this ability to like look at people's photos and go, you're hiding. Like I said it to a girl, I was like, you're wearing all black, you're hiding behind all your friends. She goes, oh my God, I am hiding. Like you're 120 pounds and you're wearing like a blanket in every picture. Like, like you're covering up, and so she was like, she's like, oh my God, I hide in my life. I was like, yeah, your pictures are a reflection of how you show up in your life. You not realize you're doing that, but your profile is a reflection of how you are showing up right now. Like you think you're just putting that picture on just for like to be cute, but you're really saying a lot. Just like in Devil Wears Prada, you think you put on that blue shirt just to like put on that blue shirt, but you're saying so much more about yourself by what you are putting out there. So, I talk a lot about that and just really give people some basic tools just to like change and upgrade and like, so that's a free source. And then, the 21-day challenge is basically a sort of a taste of like what calling in the one is. It's basically to really get people clear. Like there's 3 coaching calls. You get a daily exercise every day for 21 days, and you have an option to like extend at the end of the challenge. But it's really one of the frustrating things for me, especially with a lot of men. Like I ask men, well, what are you looking for? Mm-hmm. A lot of the times have no idea. Even some of the friends I have who are married, and I asked them, well, what are you looking for in a relationship? They still don't know. So just like, how are you? Like, it's like, your wife is asking you, well, what do you want? And a lot of men freeze up. They don't know how to answer that question. They go, well, I want what you want. They're like, well, I know what I want. I want to know what you want. Can you tell me what you want? And a lot of men have diminished themselves. They push themselves in behind in a relationship just to compromise over and over, and they can't articulate or struggle to really define what it is that they're looking for, what they want, and their own needs in a relationship. So I created this to give clarity in what they want and need in a relationship, and I kind of help them guide them, and then and then we do deeper work in a longer program. So that's what the 21-day challenge program is.
Yeah, that sounds incredible and just so needed. So, and I think, just kind of circling back to what we were talking about in the beginning of the episode of using this kind of downtime with the pandemic to just self-reflect and focus on, what we want in our life. That is a really good mirror of, if you're not satisfied with your love life, this is an opportunity. You can use this opportunity to really explore, where do I need to look? Where do I need to do the work? Maybe getting a coach might help me with that process. So,
right.
If people are struggling in their dating lives and being like, I can't seem to, find love, or everyone leaves me, this is a really great opportunity, I think, for them to do that self-reflection and that work.
Yeah. And even if you're in a relationship right now, like I'm helping a friend of mine who's married right now, like helping him really define what he wants is now, Because a lot of men, if you don't know how to define what you want, you kind of don't have a voice in your relationship.
Right.
Like you're kind of like just going,
I know, through the motions.
through the motions, and you have somebody who's talking to you, trying to get it out of you. And it's like, if you have the tools or someone to help you to gather the tools and help you to define it and articulate it, then to me, I go, when you know what you need, you have power.
Right.
You can say what you don't want and what you want. Most people can say what they don't want and they focus on what they don't want, but not a lot of people can say what they really want deep down, wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And that's something that people have to be willing to work on creating for themselves. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I just want to, again, thank you so much for being our guest on our show. We loved having you. Donovan, was there anything else you wanted to add or share?
Nope. I think we're good for this time. We might have to have you on another time, cover some more topics. But is there anything else you wanted to like talk about or plug before we finish off?
No, I mean, I think just like, if you find it valuable, like just like my website, Jimmie Allen Coaching, and you can find me on Instagram at Jimmie Allen. I do have a podcast with Alice on there called Crazy Juicy Love. And that's about it. I just really appreciate you guys just slipping me in at the last minute. I love it. You know what I mean? Taking it on. Yeah, let's do it.
Just rolling with it. I love it.
Just rolling with it, yeah. So thank you so much, and I really appreciate it. I'm honored to just be here and just sharing myself with you guys and your audience.
Yes. Well, it's been an honor to have you as our guest, and yeah, we'll have to definitely have you back again sometime.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next week.
You can check out more content at howtohappy.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the videos. We've also got a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that you can check out. See you next time.